highlight. Yes, it is. It is, in fact, time for headphone highlights. Wow, what a sound. We are still moving on down our path of the IEMs. And I got a special one today. These have been out for a while. So these might be some that some folks maybe have not heard of. But these are, I'm gonna do my best to showcase these. They're a little hard to see. These are the NuForce EDC3s. See if we can get a look at there. There you go. So kind of a funky shape. It does say NuForce on the face there. It's hard to see. On the back, or I guess the inside, you should say, you got some material there. So yes, that does say Massdrop there. Back before they were drop.com, they were still Massdrop. And then EDC3. So yeah, this was a Massdrop creation. This was way back in the day. These are actually the first IEMs that I ever owned. And by that I mean like in-ear headphones that I wouldn't just go to Best Buy to buy. You know what I mean? These were my first like special audio enthusiast IEM. And they're from this line that Massdrop was doing at the time for it was the EDC line. EDC, what did that stand for again? They had a whole thing about it. Oh, I can't remember. Something like, oh, I don't know. Whatever, it's fine. But it was a whole campaign they have about like having very portable, subtle headphones that you could take anywhere you want and that were very robust and you can, throw into your backpack or throw into your pocket and just go out and do your exercises or go for a walk or whatever, like outdoor IEMs. So yeah, they're very interesting. The build, it's plastic, big surprise. I do have the silicone nubs on there right now. I'll just do that. So they got this kind of weird angled tier shape. They do have the detachable cable, which is a 2-pin. You can see there. So they got this interesting, almost like a hearing aid shape. Not exactly, but fairly close to it. So it's a little different, a little interesting. And it does allow them to kind of sit in your ear in a very nice way. They do have L and R printed on them to indicate your left and right channels, though it's a little... am I putting this on the wrong way? I'm putting it on the wrong way. Oy vey. Hold on. We'll get this. In you go. Okay. So it's a little hard to see. I'll do my best to show this, but your left and your right channel are marked actually on the cable itself. Yeah, you got your R there, then your L. Your R is in yellow, your L is in white. So that's nice. The cable that they come with is fine. Perfectly decent cable. It actually comes with two. Yeah, it used to come with two cables. This is the one I have connected to it right now. I'm not sure where the other one is. I've had these for so long, who knows? But it does terminate at the entry point to a 3.5 millimeter right angle. So, they are kind of intended to be portable, and that's kind of a portable thing. Kind of makes sense. Save points are a blessing in time. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, see-through housing. It's true. Yeah, they are slightly transparent. You can see a little bit in there. It's really hard over the camera to really showcase it, but they are a little bit transparent. Come on, it's not gonna do it, but you get the idea at least. Not the Electric Daisy Carnival. Not exactly, but I appreciate the thought. Yeah, so they're very cool. They also, interestingly enough, rather than having single drivers on either end, they have 3. To be more exact than that, each section, your left channel and your right channel, has 3 balanced armature drivers. So you have technically 6 armature drivers altogether, 3 for either side. Some IEMs do it that way. Rather than having 1 driver, they have several smaller drivers that, similar to what. Do you remember when we talked about the one more triple drivers and how that was a 1 main driver, but then also had a special tweeter involved as well, a little tiny tweeter in the front, and then like a passive radiator or something that they kind of pretended was another driver. A similar idea, but executed differently. This is actually 3 different armature drivers, but it basically amounts to a single driver. It's just being powered by 3 different individual balanced armatures. So interesting. But yeah, again, the cable is fine. It's still that kind of rubberiness that we were looking at before. What was it? I don't remember what we were looking at before. I think it was the blondes. But it's a similar cable. It's maybe not quite as tacky, which is nice, but it's a little tangly. So even though you could just roll this up into a ball and throw it in your back pocket, doing so most likely you're gonna get it all tangled up and have to kind of fuss with it. But it's fine. It's perfectly good. So okay, comfort. How do they fit in the ear? They fit fine. They loop around the ear like so, and then they just kind of scoop in there, and you can see the way they fit. It's kind of snugged into my this part of my ear right here, and then that shape that it has, that kind of tear back and then forward. So the cable goes up around my ear, and it comes back and then goes forward, and then the driver is pointing right into my ear. Like I showed, I have the silicone tips because these are pretty darn good isolating ear IEMs. I don't have to use the foam for these. Having them in my ears right now, I can't hear anything. Can't hear my fan, can't hear my computer, and I can barely hear my own voice. So very good isolation, even with the silicone tips. And they're pretty light. It's just that plastic, so they don't have any really heavy materials. They're not, crazy space material like those T4s were, so they're not as light as those, but they're still very light. I could wear these for a good while and not be fatigued by them. And they rest in the ear pretty solid. I wouldn't be worried about them flying out. Yeah, they're not really going to fly out, especially if you're going to go with the foam tips. I don't think you have to worry about that at all. With the silicone, they can get a little bit loose if you wiggle around too much, but it's really a non-issue. So, yeah, good, decent comfort, and for the kind of shape of them. The sound on these. So again, these were one of my first, these were my first audio enthusiast IEMs. Something other than just like your Apple earbuds, back when they still had a wire on them, So these were a big upgrade for me at the time. But how do they stack up today? They weren't super cheap. They were about $100 when I bought them. I don't know if you can even get them anymore. They're certainly not on Massdrop anymore, or at least they haven't been for a very long time. So I'm not sure if you can even purchase these anymore. But they're a little, I almost want to say they're a little bit meh, but they do deserve a bit more than that. They're pretty, interestingly, they're pretty darn neutral, in a very true sense. Your mid-range is, your low and mid-range and your treble are all fairly even, fairly flat-lined. You're not really hitting any sibilance with these, but their upper upper range detail is pretty darn good. And the vocal presence in particular, vocals are really, really nice on these. They're very clean, they're very clear, and they sound very natural. You do get a little bit of soundstage, not a whole lot, but you do have a little bit of spaciousness. It's not really like a 360 degrees amount of a spaciousness, but I'd say a little bit behind your ears and then forward, kind of in a cone shape. And with that, you get a little bit of imaging and a little bit of separation. So decent, very decent. They do suffer with low end. By that, I mean they have a little bit of a hard time producing it. If you really cram them in there and you really isolate them, you can start to pick up some low end. But that's not really what it's my understanding. So there were actually 2 of these available back when this was a thing. There were the EDC1s and the EDC3s. The EDC1s were a very kind of fun, warm, a little bit bombastic, more of a bassy kind of IEM, a lot more fun to listen to. And then these were like the more audiophile, neutral, analytical variant of that. So I think in an attempt to achieve that, yeah, they have a lot better detail and range in the high end, but they definitely missed out on the low end. Where the EDC ones are probably a little bit bloated and a little bit veiling with that low end that they had. The sacrifice to adjust for that was to almost get rid of it. That's a little harsh. There is low end. It does still thump a little bit, but it's very, very subtle. And it kind of... It does sound very neutral and natural, but I really wish that the low end just had a bit more dynamics, and I wish that it hit a little lower and a little harder. That being said, they're pretty darn nice little analytical listening IEMs. They're certainly not the most accurate and analytical thing you can find today in that price range, but I mean, at the time they were great, and today I say they still stand up, but I would probably look at IEMs in the range of maybe $50 to $75 to match with these now. I think bumping that up to $100, which is what these costed at the time, you got a lot more competition that can do a lot more, not just fun and interesting things, but even just overall better performing than these. But these are really cool. I'm glad that I still have them. I like them. They're not an IEM that I would usually, probably not it's not my first pick that I'm going to pick up out of the box and take with me on vacation or to the gym or whatever. But you can absolutely do a hell of a lot worse than these. I know that's not a whole lot of praise, but that's what we're going with. So, yeah. EDC3s, the original Massdrop EDC3s. They're still really cool. And, yeah. What much more is there to say? So, we have, let's see, 2 or 3 more IEMs in our journey before we abandon the IEMs and move on to other more interesting things. Not that IEMs aren't interesting, but just different things. So, yeah, there's your headphone highlight. We're going to go ahead and go back over here now.